I have with me in the studio Mrs. Abiola Seriki-Ayeni. She's Director General, Office of Education Quality Assurance. Nice to have you back in the studios. Good morning, madam.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Very, very good.
I would say Happy New Year.
Well, we've not actually seen this year. All
We
right.
haven't.
Yeah, so even though we are far into the year,
Yeah.
but it's nice having you around. All right, so as the Director General of the Office of Education Quality Assurance, just take us through what are the primary responsibilities of that particular agency?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me here this morning. Office of Education Quality Assurance under the Lagos State Ministry of Education. What we do is we ensure quality in all of our schools below tertiary level, and we do that mainly through monitoring and evaluating our schools.
All right.
So that's both public and private schools within the state.
All right, this goes across primary schools, goes across
Yes,
secondary
it does.
schools?
Yes, it does.
All right.
And we also approve schools. So anyone that wants to have a school established in the state has to come through our office, and we make sure that they've done all that they need to do to establish a school in the state of Lagos.
All right, then. This year, the coronavirus pandemic swept across the world, and of course, education was one of those sectors that was highly affected. So let's talk about that, because only recently, the federal government announced the resumption of schools for SS3, Tech 3, and which other one now?
Federal government, yes, they said all the terminal classes. So federal government said SS3, Tech 3, JS3, Primary 6, federal
Right.
government.
Okay, and I understand that those that are preparing for NECO as well, also to start classes or perhaps do some revision purposes ahead of the WASC and the BEC. So let's talk about that. So have things really resumed in all the schools in Lagos?
So it's interesting, this issue of resumption. You know, we're trying to be very careful with the type of language that we use, because when people hear resumption, they believe the floodgates of the schools have been open and everyone should just come.
Right.
So we prefer to refer to this time as revision reopening, and that's exactly what it is. We decided as a state, Lagos State is the epicenter of, the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria. So of course, our approach is expected to be significantly different
Right.
than others, depending on what is going on in locality.
So what we have now is revision reopening.
Yes, we have revision reopening for SS3 Tech 3. We began with SS3 Tech 3, and then due to the dates that have been released for NECO Becker, JS3 in private schools have recently started their own revision reopening
They've
process.
joined as well?
Yes.
Okay, so
They started
JS3
this past Monday.
Okay.
JS3 in private schools that are registered, that their students are registered to take NECO Becker.
Right.
So that does not apply to public schools, and it does not apply to a significant number of private schools, but some private schools are taking this exam, and as a result of that, they are allowed to reopen for the purpose of revision.
So let's look at the modalities that the government is putting in place for this safe and successful reopening of some of these schools. What are those modalities?
Well, it's been a very challenging decision to decide, whether or not schools should open. If we look at global best practices, what is going on around the world, it's something that is still very much on the table, and due to the impact that the pandemic has on the success of schools not just opening but remaining open, it's sort of a winding door. So there are two main things that we have tried to do as a state.
Okay.
Number one is to make sure that our public schools, particularly because we have many students in our schools, that they are set up in a way where we can maintain social distancing, where they can have frequent hand washing, and where they will be able to wear masks. Those are the three main things that we're looking at in terms of, infrastructural preparedness. We know that when people come to schools, it's not just to check in. They're coming in to learn. So that's another big item on the table when it comes to our approach as a state to ensuring that schools are in fact ready to reopen for revision and hopefully for later on.
Right.
So we've done things like fumigation in our public schools. Now that it's just SS3, Tech 3, in the entire compound for our public schools, you can imagine that there's more than enough space to accommodate the social distancing that's required in such schools. So we're not so worried about that in our public schools. So we've gone around and we're making sure that there's sufficient, hand wash stations, masks are provided for children, and they should have a minimum of 3 that they have, that they can sort of wash for the cloth mask, so that they always have access to that.
Now, before the resumption now, is it to say that you guys have...
Reopening? We want to focus on revision, reopening, yes.
Yeah, so before this revision, reopening, did you have any kind of engagement with the owners of the schools, as well as the private ones?
Absolutely. So, we've had several stakeholder meetings with our principals, with our parents, with our private schools, public schools, over the course of this time, since schools have been closed in March, so just letting them know, communicating with them frequently and letting them know where we are, what our plans are, if we have any, because to be honest, this requires a frequent pulse as to what is going on in our society, right? We know that in order for schools to not just open, but to remain open, it is highly dependent on the character and the behaviors of our society in general. So no matter what we put in place in the school, perfect. If in the general society we're not maintaining social distancing, we're not wearing our masks, we're not washing our hands, this will, it will infiltrate the schools. So we are focusing on what schools are doing, but even more importantly, focusing on what families are doing in the general society, because whether we like it or not, it has a very, very direct correlation to the success of schools remaining open.
So is there any guidelines that you have in place to help students to prepare adequately for this revision reopening? Let's put it that way.
Yes. So the federal government a few weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago, released guidelines, and those guidelines were not done just through the Ministry of Education. They were done with the Federal Ministry of Health and necessary agencies to ensure that the guidelines that were released are holistic and are possible to achieve within our demographic. So what we did as a state is we took this and we added on to it. So for instance, we noticed that there wasn't really enough there weren't really enough guidelines as it were when it comes to learning. So ensuring that schools are preparing for in-class learning, but that they're also preparing for blended learning in the event that children are having significantly less time in school, and that they also have plans for distance learning in the event that society has to be shut, or in the event that there's a case of COVID in the school where the school has to be shut down. So we want our schools to prepare now for when that happens. So we don't go back to March 23rd where it meets us by surprise, right? Because we understand that schooling is not just about clocking in and clocking out. Schooling is about learning. So we really want to give a significant amount of weight to ensuring that the learning plans and the academic plans of the schools are in place. So it is okay.
Yeah. So where can these schools? Where can they have access to these guidelines and the safety measures I just talked about?
So because of the timeliness of the WAEC exam and the NECO-BECE exam, we decided that we'll allow the schools to open, keeping in mind those very important infrastructural developments that they know they need to do. For the learning and for the clearance through the Office of Education Quality Assurance, that's going to be an ongoing process. And it's something you can start by registering on our website, oeqalagos.com.
That's OEQA Lagos.
Yes.
That's the website.
Yes.
www.oeqalagos.com. All right. So is this compulsory for all schools to register?
Absolutely.
To obtain this clearance?
Absolutely.
It's compulsory?
It is compulsory. First of all, we want to know where you are. So the registration has been a way for us to at least know where all of our schools are, get updated information on the schools, and help them, support them along this process of getting a clearance. So although some schools are open now for the purpose of revision, we know that a lot more schools are not open. So for those schools, of course, they will register. Once they register, they will get a code sent to their email.
Right.
And then they are to download the federal government and state government guidelines on school reopening. They are also to download the guidelines for child protection and safety.
Right.
We think it's very important that every school educate themselves, including their teachers and their staff, on what child protection and safety should look like in general and during this time.
Right. So any implications for me not registering if I'm a school owner, for instance?
Yes, there are. Obviously, we have schools that are approved and schools that are not approved, and we just want to focus on supporting. This is a tough time for everyone, and we're starting with support. So we are hoping that parents, the community, see the value in the reopening process and the clearance that comes as a result of this. And, to be honest, during this time, there has been a sort of power shift when you look at school owners and parents. Parents have more of a voice than they probably did in the past. So we're really hoping that everyone feels more empowered during this time, and they can then make decisions as to whether or not they are comfortable with their children continuing in a school who has not at least done the registration process towards the reopening of schools.
Right. Lagos Traffic Radio at 96.1 FM. The program we're listening to is an extended version of Your Side Mirror, and I have with me in the studio Mrs. Abiola Seriki-Ayeni, who is the Director General, Office of Education Quality Assurance. I'll allow you to join the conversation very, very shortly. But let's situate that office and talk about some of the achievements that you guys have had, especially within the themes agenda of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Just take us through how your office is also helping out. Where are you guys situated within that themes agenda?
Well, I think, when we look at the themes agenda, the E stands for education and technology. And I think from the very beginning, since I got on board late last year, we've really been working towards how we can use, technology to scale. So even from the internal work that we're doing within the office, the type of training that occurs, being able to do the work of evaluation using technology. So, we're shifting toward, doing everything electronically. So in the past, they go on the field, they go to a school, they handwrite, their observations at the school, they go back to the office, they spend maybe about 2 days compiling it and then typing, there's light, there's no light, then, having someone bring it to Alausa. So immediately we started with, them just emailing their evaluations to the office so that they can quickly get back to the schools so that they can make the necessary changes. Number two is, during this reopening process, this is the first time that our officers have, use technology to actually do it, So they've gone onto the field and they're inputting their information on the spot. I can see at the end of the day how many schools have been visited by how many teams. I can quickly scale up the emergency situations that need to be red flagged, and that's really helpful. So, from the very beginning, we've used technology to scale, and there's so many plans we have in place to further do that.
And I hear during the lockdown period as well, you guys were able to leverage on technology as well.
Yes, with the Read Aloud Lagos. Yes. So, Mr. Governor, our wonderful Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, he launched Read Aloud Lagos, which is basically reading intervention program targeted to ensure that students and their families read for at least 20 minutes every day. And it was intended to be a school-based program. But when lockdown happened, we had to sort of think outside of the box and recognize the opportunities that existed. So now what we've done is we've created an online platform where children within the state are able to go in and access lessons on reading. Those that don't have access to technology are able to go into our offices and get books and reading logs to keep themselves engaged. And those that have minimal access to technology are able to join in on WhatsApp/Telegram groups for Read Aloud Lagos.
All right. Then let's take this beyond the studio now. Also allow people out there to talk to you on the program. With me in the studio, the Director General, Office of Education Quality Assurance, and the person of Abiola Seriki-Ayeni. So you want to join the conversation or perhaps ask one or two questions that relates to this revision reopening? I don't want to use my words anymore. All right. So it's revision reopening. At the moment, we have the SS3, Tech 3, and she also talked about JS3, right?
JS3 for those that are taking a NECO Becker.
NECO Becker.
Yes.
Becker meaning a basic
education
certificate.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That 0809-912-0777 is the numbers that you can connect with us on the program this morning. Perhaps you want to ask her one or two questions. Feel free to do so on that particular number. And then you can also connect with us on our Facebook page, which is Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM, and also on our Twitter handle at Lagos Traffic 961. Talk to me. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right. What's your name, sir?
Samson, my name.
Samson. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Surulere.
You're calling from where?
Surulere.
Surulere. All right. Then Samson, go ahead.
I just want to ask only on school fees.
School fees.
Yes.
Okay.
This time that there was no school for the first time and they want to take exam. So how is the school fees going to be to the private school?
Okay. All right. How is the school fees going to be determined?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just keep listening. I guess we'll respond. Fees. Lots of parents will be concerned about that. Even though they've been doing some kind of online learning for their children in the past months. But let's see how this plays out. Hello there. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Mrs. Olatimehin from Abiola.
Nice to hear from you, Mrs. Olatimehin.
Yes, well done.
Yes.
I'd like to say well done to the madam in the studio from the Quality Assurance Station.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And the question is this: for the school reopening clearance for private schools, some of us have filled the forms online. We are yet to get a feedback, though some were given reference numbers. So what's the next stage? How do we know when to obtain the clearance or how to obtain the clearance?
Are you a school proprietor?
Yes.
Okay. So you want to know how to get the clearance from... Okay.
Yes, the next step after the reference number.
Okay then. All right. Thank you so much. Just keep listening. All right. 0809-912-0777 is the numbers that you can connect with us. We are discussing revision reopening, as the case may be, right now. Hello there.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
My name is Mr. Oladile. I'm calling from Ikorodu.
Nice to hear from you, Oladile. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me commend the effort of Mr. Governor and our madam sitting in the studio.
Okay.
For the wonderful job done so far. However, I want to quickly ask. I have a student in the government college, Janiki.
Okay.
So they were asked to bring 7 face masks along with them. Is it part of this? This is part of the procedure from the state government.
Okay. Students from Ijaniki asked to bring 7 face masks.
For each student.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's my question.
Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
7 face masks. All right. All right. Let's take some more. 0809-912-0777. We put all of them together so that our guests can respond to all your concerns. Good morning. Hello there. All right, then. So that's what happens. If you did not turn down the volume of your radio set by the time you put your calls through, you might have that kind of response, or perhaps you might have this howl back. And we do not want that. We want a very smooth communication by the time you get through to us in the studio. So just reduce the volume then you can place your calls through. I'll be able to respond to your concerns as well. 0809-912-0777. We're talking education this morning, and it's courtesy Office of Education Quality Assurance. Let's respond to some of these concerns that have been raised so far. So good, madam. Maybe we should take it from where now at the top?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank everyone for calling in and participating in this. Definitely, there's several others who have the same question. So obviously not everyone is going to call. So Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So the first person that called was talking about school fees.
Right, that's Samson.
Yes, Mr. Sampson. So, schools closed March 23rd, and the government, via the Honorable Commissioner of Education, Mrs. Folashade Adifisayo, she stated categorically that there was no third term, that it was put on pause, that it was going to be on hold, number one, and that number two, in thinking through the learning that would continue from March up until now, that schools should come to a win-win solution with their parents. It's very important that we look at schooling and schools holistically. So in the past, it has been that these are our fees, and then you come in and, you just pay. But given the circumstance that was caught everyone unaware, we really needed to look back and to really think through how we would work together toward the education and the learning of our children. And we know that children are at the center of this. Even for us at government, for our stakeholders, children are our Northern Star. They are what drives decision making at the end of the day. So schools have had to sort of think through that. And I mean, I've had some people come into the office and we've had to settle a few, disputes here and there and come to mutual, understanding as to how that would be. So those fees are for the learning. You are getting a service, right? So of course you would have to pay.
So will it be at the discretion of each school, or?
Yes and no. So this is not an opportunity for the school to for instance, charge the same exact amount as they would had it been the children were in boarding, taking your food, your resources, and all that, right? So it has to be something reasonable that the parents, still feel comfortable with. And, to be honest, wherever you go, you will find people that whatever you do, you cannot satisfy them. And that's just the honest truth.
All right, let's talk about Olatimilenyi. Just talk about school resumption. She's a proprietor, probably, and she's trying to get clearance for her school.
So I want to make clear that the registration is the first part of the process, and the last part of the process will be a verification stage where the Office of Education Quality Assurance will come to your school. So let me just quickly go through everything in between. So when you register online and you get a special code, we are expecting you to go back to those key documents. The Federal Ministry of Education guidelines being number one, and then there's a self-assessment. So that self-assessment that the Office of Education Quality Assurance has created is for basically the school to know where they are when it comes to learning, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to the operations, when it comes to the communication and academic plans of their school. So they can assess themselves. That self-assessment will not be submitted to us. It is purely for you to just see where you are. Now, when you look through the federal government guidelines and the guidelines that we have put together, we've not really created a new set of guidelines. It's just a summary of the key points of the federal government's own, and then our own additional addendums that we've added. Also go through the child protection, the Child Protection Act of and Law of Lagos State, Safeguarding and Protection Law of Lagos State. We want to, we also recognize this to be an opportunity for school leaders and owners to go back and to make sure that the systems they have in place are safeguarding children, right? So after you do that, I would just say today, the training. So there's a training we've created on a sister side of ours called LagosLearnsTogether.com. So Lagos Learns Together is going to be many other things, and it's basically...
So what I would just advise, because it appears the process is going to be a bit long, right?
It's not long. It's not long. So this is what I would say. After you've done that, go back to the website today, by the end of today, and you'll see, take the course. take the reopening course, you click on it, it will reroute you to where you need to go.
Okay, so she just needs to go back to the website.
She needs to go back to
and
the
what's that website again?
OEQA Lagos.
OEQALagos.com.
Yes.
All right, so I hope Mr. Latime, you get that. Let's talk about this guy from Ikorodu who says his son, that's Mr. Ladili, who says his son, they're asked to bring 7 face masks as part of the requirements for this revision reopening.
I personally would say the more the merrier. When we think about, children and, depending if it's a disposable mask or if it's a cloth mask, if it's a cloth mask, we know that the children need to be washing them. So I would imagine that if the school is mandating they bring 7, it's just because maybe they think the children won't be able to wash it on time, or they don't want their health to be at risk at all if they're in school for 7 days, assuming it's a boarding school. So I don't see anything wrong with having more masks. More masks you have, the more your child can protect themselves.
Right.
We are saying that they should have a minimum of 3, because we know they can get lost, they may be dirty, and you don't want to introduce, bacteria to your child. So
right.
I think it's okay if they do
that. It's okay like
yes.
that. All right, 0809-912-0777. Let's stay connected with you before we round things up. Perhaps you have 1 or 2 areas of concern. You can bring that to the DG and she will respond as well. And while those calls are coming, let's just take some other concerns as well. For schools that are having this revision reopening, for instance, those who are concerned, are schools expected to have what they refer to as isolation rooms or
yes.
for suspected cases of COVID-19?
Yes. So it's part of the plan and it's part of the training, just because we know that not everyone is actually going to go through that document, right? So we decided to create a training. It's about an hour long. It has 8 modules and it goes over all of the expectations of making sure your school is safe and that learning continues. So for the isolation rooms, what we've stipulated in that document and in the training is that even if you don't have a separate room, create a room that children can be isolated within.
Let's take this call.
Okay.
Hello there, good morning. All right, I guess I lost that. 0809-912-0777 is the numbers that you can connect with us. Sorry, I held you on for so long on that call, but let's take this one. Hello there.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning, sir, and good morning, madam.
Good morning, ma.
I'm Mrs. Olateru from Ikorodu.
All right, Mrs. Olateru, go ahead.
I'm a proprietress. I had tried to fill the form, but when I got to the stage of my password, it couldn't go. The email, every other thing went on, but they asked for the password, and I'm not sure it was all right.
Okay, ma.
So I couldn't go through.
Okay, are you saying from the OEQA website or the other website? Because the training has just gone live. So
it's not the training; it's the filling of the form for registration.
Oh, okay. There's a number.
So I couldn't complete the registration.
Okay,
it
ma.
was rejecting one of the information.
Okay.
And that was the information I had with me.
Okay, ma. What we've noticed is that sometimes there's some technical glitches, number one. But number two, we've noticed that some people, maybe they were not aware that their application have gone in the first time using the same email address. So sometimes that email has already been accounted for.
Okay.
If that is not the case, there is a number for you to call for tech assistance. And if you don't have that number, please feel welcome to email support at oeqalagos.com. So that is support at oeqalagos.com.
All right. So support at oeqa.com. Mrs. Olateru.
oeqalagos.com.
All right. I hope she's listening. Just take that information, and of course you can work with it as well. Hello there. Yeah, quickly.
Please, I want Madam to explain some things to me.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Mr. Shola.
Mr. Shola. Okay, where are you calling from?
I'm from Alausa.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Shola. Quickly.
There is this charges that the school of my children are charging us. They call it logistics.
Okay.
Logistics. they've collected about 5,000 before. Now they're asking them for another 1,000 for mathematics, 1,000 for English. I don't understand. What is I want this quality assurance people to help us find out what is exactly this logistics.
And it's a private school, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, if you have tried to speak to your school and it's not forthcoming, you're more than welcome to send in a complaint or feedback and just email me directly at dg@oeqalagos.com and we'll take it up from there.
All right, dg@oeqalagos.com. All right, I think this is where we can sufficiently terminate this conversation. But I'm sure that in taking this home, what's your message to our people now that we're having this revision, reopening, as the case may be? What's your message to our people?
For me, a true mark of success is when schools can open and stay open. So although we're working towards, revision reopening is the first lap in general reopening, but it's really, really dependent on our ability as a society to do what we are supposed to do.
All right.
No matter what things we've put in place at the school, students are coming from their homes, teachers are coming from their homes, and as we've seen all around the world, it can escalate pretty quickly.
All right.
So I'm just appealing to our parents, to our school owners, to everyone to do what they're supposed to do. Make sure that you are masking up, you're wearing your mask in public. You're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting other people.
All right.
Make sure that you are frequently washing your hands and that you are trying your best to maintain social distancing.
Nice having you in the building. Thank you so much, madam. All right, then. So I'll be speaking with the Director General of the Office of Education Quality Assurance in Lagos State. It's an agency under the Ministry of Education, by the way, and she's spoken eloquently well about the revision opening, as the case may be, for certain classes in Lagos and, of course, across the country. All right, then. So we have to go. Folashade Adremu has produced. Maximum thanks to the Public Affairs Unit of OEQA. We're talking about Emmanuel and George. Thank you for making this happen and for putting everything together. All right. Your Side Mirror will return tomorrow by 9 o'clock. But till then, this is Victor Terry. Have a great day. Bye.